we go. So Daf Vav Amud Bet, and we're up to 2/3 of the way down the page, and we are at another question of Rabbi Zera. And again, Vav Amud Bet. The first word in line is the word Hamisha. That's what we had talked the last thing about, how you could have a situation where a year went by without Shalosh Regalim. Remember? Okay, so now Rabbi Zera comes around and he says, Yoreish Mo Babal Acher. What's the story if the person who made the commitment died? So is the Yoreish subject to Baal Acher? Rashi writes, Al Neder Aviv. How should it be viewed? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So now, what are the two sides? What are the two possibilities? Yes or no? I know that part, but what's the logic? What's the logic to say?
Yoreish didn't make the...
Yeah, the Yoreish didn't make the commitment. So what is he bound to someone's commitment? Alternatively, what's the case for yes? Honor his father. Or maybe if you inherit all of the assets, you also inherit all the liabilities. And one of the liabilities is this outstanding commitment. If you had a loan that he owed somebody, the people come to the estate and say, your dad owed us $500,000. You're not getting a free pass.
But
So
on the flip side, from a fatas, that doesn't pass to the Yoreish.
all right, so we're talking about a neder and a neder and a dava, where the person actually made the commitment. Yeah. But the question here is the Yoreish with you're saying with the Chatat.
Right, because the obligation is an obligation.
So minastam not, unless the son actually designated the animal already. That would be more of a question, I believe. No, sorry. No. Chatat shemetu bailov. No. It's a specific thing. A chatat where the bailim died. Mm-hmm. So the animal's in a bad way. It's in a no man's land. But right. You can't offer it because it's in the babal. And you can't not offer it because it was already designated as a korban, so you have to let it die.
But the obligation doesn't fall to the son to offer.
Right, because right. But that's not this case. This case seems to be a case where the individual is giving a neder. And he made a declaration. He would give an animal, maybe this animal, whatever it is, and then he passed away. So
the chatat should be different because the chatat is compensation for a sin, and the son didn't do the sin. The father did the sin.
But the son didn't do the neder either.
Yeah.
That was the point I was making. The son didn't.
Wait, say that again?
The son didn't make the neder. The father made the neder.
Yeah.
So why does it fall to this? I was just comparing those cases.
Okay. So, right. So the question is, it's the same. George and R were pointing out this is analogous, just like a chatat. If the bailim died, maybe should also be true if the noder died. So there's no neder left because it was attached to the individual, right?
Right.
So that seems to be also at play in this question.
But
is it subject to Baal Ta'achar or not?
The animal wasn't already designated. But if the animal was designated,
right, then it's already not for the chatat. Let's just stick with volitional commitments. If the animal's already designated, that would be it's already part of hekdesh. Then you can't take it away from hekdesh. The guy can get it back. What are you going to say?
Absolutely. I missed last week, so
it happens to the best of us. Yeah.
How can a Baal Ta'achar transfer at all? If I delayed on a vow.
Okay, hypothetically.
Well, let's say it differently. There should be a reset when it transfers. Because you're talking about a delay.
On the Baal Ta'achar side. On the Baal Ta'achar.
Yeah, so meaning if you're Yoreish, that means that someone died, right? So now you have a transfer. So you can't have a transfer of a delay. How would you have that? I mean, I wake up one day and all of a sudden it's like, hey, you're 3 months late. Well, no, I'm not 3 months late. I just inherited this. The Baal Ta'achar is an individual, not a communal. It's not shared.
Okay, I hear what you're saying, but we didn't deal with this last week, so you didn't miss anything.
Oh, good.
The question would be though, is there an outstanding obligation that has a clock on it, independent of whether the original person who made the commitment is still in the picture? Because the obligation is still there,
right? So
right, the writ of commitment is still IOU. So
as I remember, that did not the delay did not attach itself to the object, it itself to the vower.
To the vower per se,
right.
Yeah.
It didn't attach itself to the vow. Remember, we had that. I made Jesse, and I said this one, and
right.
I joked about the
right.
It wasn't attached to the actual object. It was attached
To the individual on the neder.
So-
That's true.
right, so if it was
That's
attached to
good.
the object, yes, then it could transfer, but if it's attached to.
The person, maybe it
then
doesn't,
can't
maybe it's
transfer. How
different.
does it transfer?
Rabbi,
Yeah, please, Larry, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't see your hand before. No, it is. We have to deal with it in the Gemara. Yeah,
I have I have a recollection that liabilities, unless they were meshubad, do not transfer to the Yorshim, even though the assets do transfer.
believe that is correct. However,
Yeah,
in this case, it's not an asset or liability toward another person. It's towards hekdesh.
Right,
And the question at play is that different somehow?
The Baal Ta'achar was not dealing with debt, it was, I made a commitment. And
Right.
And I need to fulfill that.
Within a
commitment
time
for
frame.
period of time.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, okay, I inherit an estate that owes, a mortgage, and I have to pay that in a certain period of time, because I didn't do anything active. There was an active commitment on the dower
Yeah.
that needed to be fulfilled in a certain period of time, otherwise he was late, he was a Baal Ta'achar. And it wasn't attached to that, so to me, it has to reset, and it can't be inherited, it's not debt or it's not a liability, it's because that would be different. The debt would not be subject to Baal Ta'achar, it would be subject to the rules of debt and
Yeah,
payment.
yeah.
So it wouldn't have to do it, you can't be a Baal Ta'achar on debt, it has to be paid a certain period of time, period.
It's like there's a tiyuv on it because you
Right,
made the commitment.
it's done. You didn't-
but
Right.
I
Right.
don't,
So.
I don't,
Larry, will chime in, yeah.
I don't see the difference between a commitment and an IOU.
Okay, by counter, Larry, is one is actively done and one is received, in the case of a Yoreish.
In the case of a Yoreish, one is
In the case of
actively
Yoreish.
done and one is received.
No, wait. The late father borrowed $100 and gave an IOU, but it was not Meshubat Lakarka. Okay? He gave an IOU. The late father made a netter to bring a carbon.
Hmm.
On his personal balance sheet, he would show two liabilities.
True.
Okay, so my nafkamina between the IOU and the commitment.
The commitment in question is a commitment to Hashem. It's a religious commitment.
Okay, but have we had, other than the issue of Baal Ta'achar, have we had any source, and now I can plead innocent because I missed 2 classes.
Well, it happens. So you've come clean. Just Mark had his confessional. Now it's your turn. It's okay. Jeff has his hand up. Probably he's going to go next. Remind us that he missed classes with bar mitzvah. There's other things.
And Skipper this year.
But no, we didn't deal with this sugya previously, about Baal Ta'achar in this way.
No, but
When we dealt with Baal Ta'achar on Hamad Bet on the top, we had the issue there.
But
I mean,
okay, so I understand it's a commitment to the Heichal, commitment to Kadosh Baruch Hu.
Yeah.
But is there anything in Chumash, in the Gemara, suggesting that the terms of that obligation are any different than any other liability? Different than an IOU?
Well, what seems to be different is that the target or the destination of your commitment is the Ribono Shel Olam, i.e., or the Hekdesh. And so
Yeah.
maybe the halachas are different in that circumstance.
But that's my question. Have we encountered any halacha suggesting that it is different?
I think this is it. I think that's what I think so. I mean, everybody agrees that the Yoreish has to continue with the commitment in some way. We saw that already on
So why doesn't
on Hamad Bet, we had talked about that.
So why doesn't
Off
that?
of Hamad Bet, we had that issue.
So
Right?
why
We
does
talked about this issue of lo ta'achla shalmo huvelo chilufav. So we had im nadar o neder o nadava malahal nadava imo avkan nadava imo la Hashem lokecha elo damin. Although we didn't deal with the Yoreish per se. I take it back.
one
Wasn't the
second,
Yoreish thing.
while we're-
Yeah, wait, Jeff also has his hand up,
Oh,
so
sorry.
before we take
Okay.
more, Jeff has his hand up and then George has his hand up. Larry, I'm afraid I don't have much else to say, except I believe they're considered two separate, they're not entirely separate magisteria, but they're two separate sets of rules here, it would seem.
I don't
Um,
understand. Can you be a Baal Tacher on debt?
can it be a Baal to Acher on a debt?
Yeah.
If there's a time period, well, no, I mean,
Yes,
no,
that's the answer to Larry.
right. You can't be over in Baal to Acher on a debt. Because the
I mean,
debt has a
over-
due date,
over-
but Baal Ta'acher refers to the specific things on the list that involve Baal Ta'acher, Lo Ta'acher L'Shalmo, all of the things on the list. And we parsed those out. You might recall, we kept going through the Pasuk again and again. Pasuk in, Parsha Kitetse, which all amounted to, these are the religious obligations that are subject to Baal Ta'acher, not to interpersonal loans. That's a whole different area.
That's the answer.
That, I guess that's the answer. Yeah.
The difference, the difference would be if you're over a Baal Te'acher, you've committed an Avera.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've committed an Avera, and the Avera would die with the Mavir. Okay, with the Over.
Well, hold on, but that's the exact point that's being made now. Is when we're looking here, we want to know, is the Yoreish subject to Baal Ta'acher, right? The point is the Yoreish is obligated to bring the offering for the individual who originally made the commitment. If you look, I mean, I was going to say it later, and Jeff is still waiting, and George is still waiting, but since we're already on this subject, indulge me one more minute. Look at Tosfot right here on Vav Amud Bet, who gives away where it is in Shas that it transfers. Yoreish Mal Baal Ta'acher, Yoreish Mal Baal Ta'acher, Tosfot, the Yoreish Chayiv Lahavi, Kiditznam Masachet Kinan. All right, Kinan, it's for the birds. Umayti la b'kama duchte ha'isha she'evia chatata umeta yevia yorshim olata umasman perakama dekidusin lamanda amar she'avoda lav deoraita shehifrisha michayim lamanda amar deoraita af bisha lo yifrisha michayim uvasof yesh bechor at the end of that parak nami amar malo halan yorshim chayavim beolat re'iyah shel avian. So in other words, all of these are different examples of the yorshim are responsible to take care of the commitment of their father, including the Olat Re'iyah, as an example, like if you already designated what the Olat Re'iyah is going to be, they'd have to bring it for the father. They can't say, well, we're not responsible, we're the children. They would be responsible, Davka, to bring that korban, to take it up to Yerushalayim. The father's not alive, so where's the chiyuv to still bring it? The answer is the korban was in some way designated.
And if it wasn't,
that would be different. But designated in this case could be something as simple as I make a neder, as opposed to the chiyuv of Olat Re'iyah, which is just going to come up whenever it's going to come up.
okay, I'm going to stop. I
want to give Jeff a chance and George also. So let's fill it out together as we're learning through the Gemara. Like, yeah, just figure it out. Yeah, Jeff, please go ahead.
Is there any distinction here between a neder and a nedava? Where it seems like a nedava will be stronger because the animal has been designated there that they're inheriting.
I would have thought so too, but I'm not sure the distinction is really coming up.
Mhm.
And the question will be, why not? Because it is at least a question,
but the Gemara,
right? The nadav is on an object. That seems pretty obvious. Nachon?
Yeah, it goes back to like Mark's point earlier. Is it on the person or the object? And nedava is pretty clear. It's on the object.
That's on the object, right? So if the person died, the object still is still sacrosanct. It's still kadosh. Have to bring it. The neder, it's like the commitment. The person who made the commitment is no longer here. You still have to pay that off to the hekdesh. Yeah. Yeah. So Tzarech Iyun. But the point is, when you look at this Tosfot's giving you the ideas here that the Yoreish is chayav to bring various korbanot, right? Yeah. So what?
I mean, the question being asked if it is, he's chayav to bring the karbanos, is there a time limit? Is the basic question.
Right. But Tosfot says, oh, you don't know if you're obligated to bring those korbanos? Yes, you are. Here are a bunch of different examples where the person died, but the Yorshim were responsible to carry out what it is that they had committed to do, though the father or the mother committed to do. Yeah. And if you say, you know, and then there's that quote from the Gemara in Kiddushin, the Lamanda Amar Shibuda lavda oraita shehifrisha mechayim. It's not the oraita when you separate it out when the person was still alive. Lamanda Amar de oraita. So alpi shaloi frisha mechayim. It's left to go ahead and do it, even if they hadn't separated out the korban beforehand. Yeah. In other words, Dar Gemara does not tell us, was the individual who made the vow, had he separated out the animal, even if it's a neder? The guy, he made a neder, I'm going to give a cow. He went to the shuk, he bought the cow. So he designated which cow it's going to be, and then he died. So he made the neder, he was mafresh. There's a machloket there also. Was he mafresh mechayim? Or if he wasn't mafresh mechayim? And that's the question of whether shibuda is deoraita or not. That's the Gemara in Kiddushin. Yeah? And back and forth it goes. Yeah?
Yeah.
You with me? George, question, comment?
Real quick, so in this case, is it the fact that the father was already, and pick your, is it one holiday or is it all three? Was he already about to acher, or is this a case where he wasn't about to acher yet?
But he was on the road to it
He
somehow.
wrote to it, and that's the question.
How close?
Timing.
Right. Do we hit the reset button because now the Yoreish got it?
But if he was about to acher, the father, the son's still obligated to bring it immediately, or does he have?
Immediately. That was the previous year we talked about.
Okay.
Is it every single another? Wow, who was at the shear last week? Was it just me? I know there were people there.
Okay,
But
so
oh, you were asking a question. I thought you were like raising your hand sheepishly, like I was there. I know. Okay, but just to say that point,
So that's the question.
that
How
yeah,
much time?
yeah, exactly. Is yeah, that is the in it, which we did talk about last time. Yeah, yeah.
Rabbi Schottenstein.
Oh,
So,
what does he say there in the notes? I didn't look.
Fourth from the Ritva, he says, the Torah does not specify the vower in the content of the positive commandment. Hence, the commandment certainly applies to the vower's heir,
Ah,
who is obligated to bring the deceased offerings.
interesting. Okay. From the Ritva, who didn't write in English, but you get the gist. It's a translation.
Source, Mishnah.
Right.
Kini.
And just,
That's in Tosfos right here. Kenan chapter 2. Yeah.
right, just to be
Yeah.
clear, my point, I'm not contesting that the Yoreish has to bring the neder. I'm contending that when we get into this, that there's a reset, there should be a reset.
It would make sense to say that there's a reset based on everything we're saying right now. I can hear the point. I think it makes sense, but I'm telling you, Tosfot are pointing out that certainly the obligation didn't dissipate just because you decided it should.
Right.
I mean, because the person
I
died, you know?
concede that piece, that's fine.
Yeah.
You're saying it's like a new obligation on the son who now has a new year to work.
That doesn't seem to be what there's, so that's the machloket here. I'm not-
That's the machloket. Does the clock restart, or we just say,
That's my machloket
yeah,
with myself.
yeah. Okay, can we move on to Gemara? Everybody with me so far? Chuck slipped in there while we were going. Nice to see you. Nice to see you also, by the way. He slipped in also in person, but online slipped in. Okay, so but that's the shaila, and at least the given in the problem Tosfot wants you to know is the Yoreish is chayiv. Obviously, Tosfot anticipating the question that was raised right here tonight, which is why should that be? Answer: see the Mishnah in Kenan, see the Gemara in Kiddushin, see the Gemara in Bechorot. Different examples, all different types of cases, by the by, of obligation. Posthumous obligation, i.e. one that falls upon the Yorshim per se. Yeah. Okay. So now the Gemara has, of course, these two possibilities. So, Makiti Dor Neder Amar Rachmana V'Halo Nadar. Huh? Kiti Dor Neder, remember, was the chief pasuk, the main pasuk we keep using again and again from Dvarim Perek Chav Gimel. Kiti Dor Neder LaHashem Elokecha Lo Te'acher L'Shalmo. Ki darosh yidrashenu Hashem Elokecha me'imach v'haya b'cha chet. That was the chief pasuk. We're dealing with this pasuk now for many weeks. Shouldn't come as a surprise in Parshat Kitei. So kitidor neder amarachmana v'halo nadar. He didn't make the neder. Dilma o dilma uvata shama v'veitim shama. You should arrive there and bring it there. Yeah. You follow? In other words, v'hamachayev. So he's obligated. You got to go and you got to bring it. What's the it? Any commitments that exist, including commitments of someone who's no longer in the world. Yeah. So the Gemara here points out, Tashma, the Tana Rabbi Chia, me'imach prat liyoresh. The word me'imach is darshan to say from you, but not from Yoreish. Yoreish, in other words, has a reset when they take over. The Gemara points out, wait, vaha me'im. Your question?
Well, is that a reset or is that you actually have to bring it? Is that you're trying to bring it?
No, chayav to bring is not from here.
Prat Yoreish means.
Remember the pasuk accepting the person who is the heir from this pasuk's obligation, which is when you make a neder, your God, do not tarry in paying it. That's the Isra Baal Ta'acher. It's not whether there's an obligation or not. It's for anyone who has this obligation. Tosfot chime in, and that obligation is found elsewhere. Ayin Sham, in Kenan, in Kiddushin, in Bechorot. Okay. That is the obligation itself, but the word me'imach is to, the Gemara contends, to stress, to underscore, it's only the individual who made the neder. The children of that person, they can start again. You can't say they're on the same clock.
Okay.
The clock goes back to zero, at least. And then it's their obligation. How do we know it's their obligation? Ayin Sham and Tosfot, the other Makorot. So the Gemara says, Tashma Tan Rabbi Chia, me'imach prat liyoresh, v'hai me'imach mebayile, zeleket shicha upeya, right? Where do we see that? Page 5b. That's the top of 5b, where it's telling you, like it's going through this pasuk, and it says, well, what's the me'imach? That's for leket shicha and peya. And you might recall, we had this whole discussion in Tosot way back when. How could there be Baal Ta'arach and Leket Shecha and Payas? You have to give it right away. Remember? It was Tosot. Maybe you made a mistake. Maybe you accidentally put it in the house. Maybe this, maybe that. All different possibilities. And it did. Tosot did like, didn't like. Okay. So the Gemara says, oh, okay. So Kari Be Imach, the Kari Be Me Imach. The distinction is the fact that it could have said in the pasuk something to the effect of Idaroshi Dushenu Hashem Imach, and it said Me Imach. So imach and me'imach is two different drashas. Sometimes the Gemara will do this. Chazal have a drasha where the nuance of how the word is written with extra letter, with an extra something, is going to indicate that there's something extra that can be darshan from it. Whereas another example of this exact phenomenon, it's on page 516 in the Chumash. Go on page 516 in the Chumash. I'm just in the mood to share some Torah that you can take to your table. Vayakel Moshe Koladad b'nei Yisrael vayomer alehem ele hadvarim asher tziva Hashem la'asot otam. Ele hadvarim. The Gemara in Masechet Shabbat has in Daf Tzadi Zayin Amud Bet Rebbe Omer Dvarim hadvarim ele hadvarim elu shloshim vateshim malachot shenemar l'Moshe b'Sinai. It could have just said ele dvarim, or it could have just not said ele dvarim. It could have been vayomer aleihem sheishet yamim te'aseh malacha. What did it have to give you? Vayomer aleihem ele hadvarim asher tziva Hashem la'asot otam. What is the ele hadvarim? Dvarim hadvarim ele hadvarim. From here we learn that actually we have 39 malachas. How do we learn that? Right? It could have just said dvarim. Why did it say hadvarim? And why did it have to say eile hadvarim? So from here we actually learn, believe it or not, the drasha that we're learning here, as Mefarshim point out in this Gemara, is that eile is gematria 36. Huh? Okay. And then dvarim is a plural. And hadvarim is another one, and the minimum of plural is 2. I kid you not. This is Rabbi's view. What? And ha is 1. So Rabbi Yehuda Nasi holds that there are indeed 39 malachas, and he darshans it from here. Now, you'll say to me, excuse me, dvarim advarim ela advarim. Rashi explains this Gemara this way. He actually says that we learned from Rabbi. So there's a gematria 36, and then you have another dvarim is 2, and the hay is another 1. 36 plus 3, 39. Now, you could say this is amazing and creative, and Rabbi is a genius, and he teased it out, and that's why there are only 39 malachas and not 40 or 50 or 100 or something like that. Or alternatively, Rabbi Yehuda Nasi had this drasha as something from his part of the Masorah. He didn't make it up. He simply got it through the Masorah from earlier generations. And it's coded in this way, Davka, in order to signal that the model should not be about reaching the number and just memorizing a list, but seeing it as part of the picture of the Mishkan, as the negative image, like the negatives. Remember negatives in film? Remember film? The negatives? So, right? You develop the film of negatives. So what you're seeing in the building, that's what you don't do on Shabbos. Eila hadvarim asher tziva Hashem la'asot otam. And it's a mnemonic device. Rabbi, again, he probably received tradition, but Rabbi was famous for being involved in concatenating huge amounts of information into very short Mishnayot. That's what the Gemara is doing, unpacking it. Yeah.
Gematria makes sense. It's exact, but barring can be at least 2. So you could have.
So the rule is you take the minimum number of a plural, and that's 2. You're right. But unless otherwise specified, when the Gemara speaks in plural, it means 2. Okay.
So for Rabbi Yehuda just learned from the Torah, then these two.
Rabbi Yehuda
Do
Nasi.
you have anything, Rabbi Yehuda Nasi? Does he say anything about these words or what against Rabbi? The Eilat Dvarim?
No, Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. That's what Rabbi Yehuda Nasi says.
Yeah.
Rabbi Dvarim Advarim Ela Advarim means 30 is 39. Malachas. I'm just pointing out that you're what's the word? You're focusing the microscope pretty close up to things when you're already unpacking what's right. It's so granular. I think that's the word people use today. But what do you have in our Gemara? Back to our Gemara, which we came to learn, not just to get the Torah for Shabbos. I hope you got the point, right? The point is he didn't just, hey, let's just figure out a number. We'll just add up a gematria and it's this. That he knew the number was 39. Everybody knew the number was 39, right? Just like that's what we know the number is. How come? Because in other contexts also we have the number 40, chaser achat. We have it with makot. There's different things that come up. So he knew this. But how is he finding it in the text of the Torah? What looks superfluous in the Torah? Now, could say he darshaned it. On this one, I want to go personally with he had this received Masorah. But it's really unpacking the words, the language. And that's what our Gemara is doing also. Imach me imach. You can't have 2 drushes from one word. No, but it's really a word and a half, 2 words. It's 2 fragments. You follow? That was the only point I'm trying to make. I've made the point. We can move on. Okay, but you also have a Dvar Torah now for the Parsha, and then if you're intrepid enough to open up the Gemara and Rosh Hashanah, that reminds me, and you open it up, you start teaching it, they'll be sleeping in minutes. Don't worry. What? The Baal Ta'achar? Well, they'll be attacking you. What's the story with Baal Ta'achar with the Yorshim? This is where's the Tosfos? Okay, you got the gist. Let's move on to the Gemara, and that's the first thing. Next. By Rabbi Zera, Isha Mahi Baal Ta'acher is a woman subject to Baal Ta'acher. Yeah. Why would you think yes? Why would you think not? Right?
Zman Grama.
Zman Grama.
In some sense.
Yeah, maybe Zman Grama. Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
diapers, they can't get there before.
Yeah. Right. And we say, right, maybe she's not subject to Baal Ta'acher because when are you going to give the korban? Mostly. When you're going up to Yerushalayim, when are you going to Yerushalayim? Shalosh Regalim. And
Is the woman married?
To go, the Olat Re'iyah people, the people who are chayav to go Alila Regel are men. The women are not obligated in Alila Regel. Yireh kol zichurcha. Remember? But even though that's true, it's also true that there's an Indian by V'samach Bechagecha that it's you and your household and Beito zu Ishto, and therefore, by the by, they may not be walking all the way up to the Mikdash, but they're definitely coming to Yerushalayim. If you have a family, just go on a pilgrimage without them, Because if you don't have the proper simchas yom tov, you have to have everybody together, and they have to misameach them. So you can't misameach them if you're not home. So unless your absence is the simcha for them, which is just pathetic and sad. But
Where are you going to?
Most-
Place in Russia?
well, what?
Or is he going to a place in Russia?
Oh, to Ukraine. Yeah, sure, to Uman.
Thinking, because
Little later.
Holidays now, with, we don't face maybe.
Yeah.
It's all about family, right?
It's all about
like
family,
you-
yeah.
You, wherever you're going.
Yeah,
everything's
yeah.
going.
It was mostly about family then too, but the mostly about family was dafka about including Kodesh Baruch Hu in your family, as it were. I mean, so to speak. Larry, had your hand up. Please go ahead.
Is the woman married?
Yes. And if she wasn't, still not obligated in Riyah, all at Riyah.
I understand that, but as a married woman, technically,
Passed
she,
to her husband.
exactly. And does she have the power to
question.
opt husband?
Fair question. Simple answer, no.
Okay,
Yeah. Bye, Rabbi Zeir, Ishamai b'bal ta'acher, mi amrina and halamachai b'riyah, o dilma ha'ita b'simcha. You could say, well, the woman's not obligated in riyah, but she's obligated in simcha. Remember, shalmei simcha, perhaps, or simcha generally on Yom Tov. That's going to be one of the discussions here. Amalei Abaye v'tepukle the ha'ita b'simcha. So Abaye says, yeah, you should, what come an emergence of this is she is indeed obligated in simcha. She's obligated in simcha. She's obligated to bring korbanot she made commitments to, and therefore she's going to be in Yerushalayim anyway. And therefore, just to bring her commitment. Umi amar Abaye hachi. Can Abaye really said this? Amar Abaye Isha b'ayla mesamcha lidvar. Right? According to Abaye, Isha mesamcha. The b'ayla mesamcha. Excuse me. The husband has an obligation to mesamech his wife. What does this mean? Rashi. Mi amrin ha l'machayv b'riyah dichtiv kol zichurcha v'kevin l'machayva l'meisak lo shayach ba zman regalim. She doesn't have to go out there, so then she doesn't have to. She should be subject to the baltach or dilma mechayva l'meisak. Maybe she does have to go out there. Mishum simcha dichtiv samacht b'chagach v'amar mar. Bizman shebeit hamikdash kayam ein simcha lo basar shlamim shenemar v'zvach l'shlamim v'chal tasham v'samachta. Yeah. Forget Bechalta for a minute there. Yeah. The time of the base of Mikdash, the Simcha was eating the korbanot. But Ba'ala Masamcha, what does that mean? Bebavel, Bebigdei Tzivonin, Be'eretz Yisrael, Bebigdei Pishtan Meguhatzim, white linen pressed clothing in Eretz Yisrael, colored garments, dresses, whatever it is, in Bavel. So Hachiyad B'Kiddushin, Zevin Kiddushin, that's Ba'ala Masamcha. It's not related to korbanot, it's not related to anything to do, right? So the Gemara has just had here a statement by Abaye, she's obligated in simcha, she's probably obligated also, Baal Ta'ach, if she doesn't get the korban she made a commitment to there in time. And the Gemara said it can't be. Abaye would not have said that. Abaye thinks Isha Ba'ala Masamcha. So the Gemara answers, Lidvarav Rabbi Zera Ka'amar. He wouldn't really mean it. He was just saying, according to Rabbi Zera Shita. That's what you would hold. Yeah, Mark.
Could you course correct me here for a moment? The Gemara asked the question, is a woman subject to Baal Ta'ach? That I understand. It seems to answer that by going back and seeing, does a woman have the mitzvah to actually bring the korban? Not can she be about ta'acher. It seems, meaning if I asked you, am I subject to Baal Ta'acher? You might say, no, you can do it whenever you want. If it takes 2 years, it's fine. You wouldn't necessarily say, well, you could say to me, well, you don't have to bring a korban ever anyway. You're never going to make an editor, so it doesn't matter. So I don't understand the Gemara's answer relative to the question. I'm missing that.
Make the Dara.
Huh?
The woman could make a neder, but the husband could be for the neder.
Right, but if he doesn't say, if he's.
But if the wife makes a neder and he's quiet and it stands, the husband does not take on her obligation. It's still her obligation to bring it.
So I just don't understand the connectivity between the question and the Gemara's approach to answering. Because to me, the approach to answering should have to do with being a Baal Ta'acher.
Okay.
Not to the fundamental underlying how she got, whether she's
getting it to Yerushalayim or not.
That might involve being a Baal Ta'acher. So I'm having trouble getting that connectivity. I'm missing something.
See if I can explain it. Because I think it points.
Is it?
Excellent. The idea here, does everyone on the phone hear that? Yeah? Is the Isha subject to Baal Ta'acher? Is a woman subject to Baal Ta'acher? Yes or no? Meaning she made a commitment, she has to fulfill that commitment. Is she subject to Baal Ta'acher if 3 regalim go by and she hasn't brought it, so then she's overet on Baal Ta'acher. But the Gemara's answer is, well, or the Gemara's next statement, I should say, is, well, is she obligated in Re'iyah or not? No, she's not obligated in Re'iyah. But she is obligated possibly in Simcha. Okay, let's say she's not obligated in Re'iyah unless she wasn't obligated in Simcha. She made a commitment to go to Yerushalayim to give a korban, so she's to give it. What does that have to do with whether she's obligated in these other mitzvahs, Re'iyah and Simcha? Did I get that right?
Yeah. I just don't see, I don't see that.
I think that it means that in order to be able to speak about someone being related to the Isser of Baal Ta'acher, they need to be on the schedule of obligations to be in Yerushalayim for a certain number of times. Otherwise, maybe the fact that she's not related to the annual pilgrimages, plural, means that she's not really subject to any time limit whatsoever. Women are p'turot from a mitzvah to say she has zman grama. She made a commitment to something in a positive sense. Maybe she's not subject to Baal Ta'acher because, that would make it, zman grama. I'm really not comfortable. I shouldn't have raised the specter of mitzvahs zman grama. Love is mitzvahs that are not shaloz zman grama, only because those are obligatory mitzvahs that fall upon a person that actually we don't invoke that principle when there is an isser. On an isser, women are obligated to men, which means that if there is an isser of Baal Ta'acher, in principle, without this Gemara, he would have said that she's obligated in Baal Ta'acher because it's an isser in the Torah, and women, it doesn't matter about mitzvah seishes man grama shaloz man grama, it's an isser. So I'm not sure how you would get yourself out of that, but in this case, it's like, well, is she on the schedule when she's meant to be in Yerushalayim anyway for some reason, Re'iyah or for Simcha? And if that's true, then maybe she is chayiv in Baal Ta'acher. But if she's totally not, she's staying in Lud in her house, then maybe there's no such thing as Baal Ta'acher for her. It's like whenever you get there, you could give it. And it's not related to a schedule per se.
What is Tosfos referring to? It is Isha Tevia Hatasam Isaiah Bio Yorkim also.
That's the sugya before.
Right. But it's talking about Isha
We all know that.
Tevia Hatasa that she brought a hatas. What was that for giving birth or?
I don't remember now. I don't remember. She was bringing a korban, bird of some sort. She'd already designated. The point was here that she'd already designated it. And it was already like in the mikdash, I think, something like that.
So the question on this is, does she have is there a time limit or not?
Yeah.
That's what we're asking here.
Yeah.
No, she's out. Okay.
Yes, we're asking, is there a time limit? Is she subject to Baal Ta'acher at any time? Maybe she's not. Yeah. And by the by, if she doesn't have a mitzvah of Re'iyah, and she doesn't have a mitzvah of Simcha, then maybe there's no Baal Ta'acher. And here again, Tosfos will point out, let's say you have a man who is unable to go to Olat Re'iyah, to give his korban Olat Re'iyah. Why? Because he's sick, he's old, he's infirm. Rashi, halei to Bere'iyah. Vehu adin zakin v'cholo misha ein lo karka v'chlop turim min Re'iyah. So maybe if you don't have a mitzvah of Re'iyah, then maybe you don't have Baal Ta'acher. Because the only place you're going to give the korban is Yerushalayim. You have to have a schedule when you're going to get there. Having let 3 opportunities come and go and you didn't take care of it, now you're over on Baal Ta'acher. But maybe it doesn't really matter because you're so infirm, you can't give a korban anyway because you can't get there. So now you're not subject to Olat Re'iyah. Maybe there isn't Baal Ta'acher because you had a p'tur from having to make yourself crazy to get to Yerushalayim from your house in Nahariya or something.
Can you have a shaliach bring a korban?
Yeah.
So why would then that would be a solution, and that shouldn't be the get out of jail free card.
All right. Fair point. Fair point. Tosfos doesn't entertain that right here. It says halei to Bere'iyah. V'adin zakim v'chol mishein lo karka v'chlop turim min Re'iyah. Maybe anyone, but with women, maybe Simcha is not fulfilled by their eating meat, but actually by their receiving clothing, which can happen anywhere. So therefore, they're obligated in Simcha, right? So and Abaye had said this thing, he holds Isha Bailam Masamcha. He doesn't think they're related to meat. They're related to them getting clothing or something. So how could he have said such a thing, though? No. Lidvar of Rabbi Zera Amar. He doesn't really accept that idea. He was just quoting it aliba to Rabbi Zera, because Rabbi Zera had asked that question, right? Does she have Baal Ta'acher or not? Yeah. So that's the Rabbi Zera piece. Then comes another question. I mean, it's just left hanging. It wasn't really resolved, right? It's just like, is this way? Is it that way? I don't know. Does not seem to resolve over here, right? At least to this point. The Gemara says, "Ibai lahu bechor me'emetay monin lo shana." When is the bechor considered to have reached its year? What's the cutoff point to say that it is already on the clock to have 1 year in order to give it? And if you didn't, then you're over also on Baal Ta'acher. So Abaye says Mishash and whenever it was born. Rav Acha Bar Yaakov Amar Mishash near the heart Sa'ah, when it was ready to be given as a korban, which is when 8 days old.
Oh, so that's.
I was saying that at the bris. I was quoting the pasuk, but I blanked out as I was saying it. No, in Amor, Otoved Beno, and then it has. No, those are the Yom Echad, but then right after that, it talks about the 8th day, doesn't it? Isn't that where it comes up? Yeah, but isn't that where it mentions it also? Chapter.
Yes.
Am I right?
23, I think.
Yeah. 22, 23. Yeah. Chapter 22. It's a parak chav bet. Pasuk chav zayin. Shor uchasev o'ez ki baleid v'yashivat min tacharimo umi yom hashmini v'hala yeratzeh lekorban Isha la'Hashem. Yeratzeh ritzui, finding favor in Hashem's eyes. So when do you start counting for the Bechor? Lo Shana Abai Amar Mishashinola Rav Acha Bar Yaakov Amar Mishashinir LeHartzah. That's at least 8 days old. That's the beginning of the count. V'lo Plige. They're not really arguing with each other. Habitam. The tam means that it's ready for a Hartzah, right? That is already ready to be offered as a korban. Ha Baal Mum. The other one's talking about a Baal Mum. What's a Baal Mum for our purposes here? Means it was born with a defect that is enough of a defect that it cannot serve in the Beit HaMikdash the korban, but not enough of a defect that it's not kosher to be used as an animal that you're going to eat. You know, yeah. Well, the point is it's a Baal Mum, right? So if it's a Baal Mum, so it can't ever be a korban. So why start the clock on day 8 when it could be a korban? It's not going to be a korban anyway, right? So if you look at the first Rashi, Baal Mum shenolad b'mum v'only shachet b'chutz miyom shenolad hu ra'ui lekach umonin lo mishenolad. You count from there. Which is it going to be? That's the machloket. Mimatzi achile, the kimle bay shekalu lo chadashav. I mean, are you going to be able to eat it anyway the day when it was born? Maybe it's a nefel, and shchita would not be matayr it until it has at least 8 days of life, right? Then it's no longer a nefel. So Rashi says, right? As long as it's 30 days outside of a person is not a nefel. And a behema gets 8 days, and that's it. So on this basis, essentially saying, well, even the Baal Mum, you're not going to be able to eat it earlier than the 8th day unless you knew for sure that kalul chadashav, which means that it had its full, complete gestational period. So in a person that's 9 months, in large animals it's 9 months, but in like behema daka, sheep, lambs, goats, things like that's 5 months. So if you happen to know the exact date of conception, and you knew that amount of time had elapsed, then exactly when the animal's born, if it's a Baal Mum, you chop it right away and you can eat it. Again, I'm talking about a type of a mum that we pogame and the possibility that it's shchita would be kosher, it's creating a treifa. We're talking about where it's some kind of a mum that it wouldn't be good enough for a korban. And that's the essentially the end of that sugya, if you will. And we're basically over time. So I guess I have to leave for next time. We get into calendars, which will be appropriate because there'll be about Chodesh Adar, and we'll be in Adar Sheni by then. So I guess we'll come back next time from the Tana Rabbanan. We can get as far as I had hoped, but I think that's a running theme for all of our shiurim. Next week, same time, same channel. Although we might have to start a little bit later because by next week, Mincha Maariv starts 6:45 this Sunday. So 6:45. Mincha Maariv, so it might not start till 7:25 or something, and we'll go till 8:10 or something. I have the other share coming up at 8:15, so Azoy Gaitis. Okay, thanks for coming. Lila Tov, good Erev Shabbos, everybody. Thanks for being here.